And we will move now to our third speaker, Professor Hanada Taha. Hanada will be talking about one of the input of school evaluation, and that's an important input. It's about Arabic language teaching, learning, and evaluation. Hanada is the endowed professor of Arabic language and director of the Arabic Language Center for Research and Development at Zayed University, UAE. Previously, she served as acting dean of Bahrain Teacher College, University of Bahrain, where she joined as associate dean in 2010. She has close to 30 years of experience in teaching and teacher pre-service preparation and in-service training, Arabic language curriculum design, developing and reviewing national literacy strategies and literacy coaching. She designed the first system for leveling Arabic text, which is currently used by regional and international publishers to level their Arabic children's books. More than 8,000 books have been leveled free of charge with a grant from Arab Thought Foundation. She is the senior author for Pearson First Arabic Language Arts K-9. Her research is in the field of Arabic language teaching and learning, Arabic children's literature and teacher preparation. She holds a PhD in education from the University of New Orleans, USA, 2001, and an MA in education psychology and counseling, and BA in social and behavioral science with a minor in Arabic from the American University of Beirut. Hanada, the floor is yours, and you have the choice to speak in Arabic or in English.
Shukran. Let me share. Can you see it? هل ترون العرض؟
نراه. لا نعم.
نعم أم لا؟
نعم.
تمام. مساء الخيرات والمسرات. السلام عليكم.
Good evening and peace be upon you all, and thank you very much for this invitation, and thank you for having me in this important conference in terms of the topic, in terms of the theme, in terms of the timing, in terms of this necessity to tackle such topics during this time. I will start speaking first about evaluation in general, and my work will be about the Arabic language and the assessment and this world of Arabic and the importance of teaching this language. Assessment is, in general, is not like Ibn Sinai as a floating, Avicenna floating man. Avicenna's floating man story, which was an experiment to see if he can separate the spirit from the body. Now, Ibn Sinai said that it is possible, and we can have self. We can feel ourselves as an innate feeling. As for teaching language and evaluating an assessment of language, we cannot separate that. Even in other subjects, in all school subjects, it is separate. It is not separate from the policy of the linguistics and the philosophy of education that is developed and followed by countries, educational methods and how to prepare teachers, how to train them, how to find this complete system and matrix. We cannot speak about assessment in isolation from other things related to the other relations with the interrelated links to assessment. Assessment in general aims at serving the learner by an educational system that is holistically self-accountable and measurable. And this may have been mentioned by other speakers before me, that there is some kind of self-improvement, as I mentioned, that school works on self-improvement, and starting from bottom up, from the roots to the branches or the leaves. Sometimes also we can start upside down. and this kind of assessment should be in the different and should be in the different solutions, and this is important for the Arabic language. We have in the field difficult questions that we need to ask, and I will mention these questions later on. We need to ask these questions, we need to tackle these questions, we need to mention them in a way that will enable us to know how to deal with the Arabic language, how to look at the Arabic language through this long history of practicing. Also, assessment is important in terms of assessing the different programs of Arabic language in terms of the outcomes and the different outputs. It is not important what the teacher does uh, a lot, but what is more important is what students do. If students speak classic Arabic, this is my message that the teacher used this classic Arabic with them. If students talk good Arabic, this is an indication. The teacher will not be speaking with them classic Arabic, and at the end of the day, will find them at the end of the year speaking slangs. The students will not be busy all year long speaking with higher thinking skills, and at the end of the day, I will go and I can't find any of them as an inspector. I also want to speak about a story before I start speaking about this changing world. A story of a university student who became a teacher. Her name is Haya, which is a real story. Haya was a teacher in the teachers college. It was a good college of teachers in the region. She graduated, and this college was for students who uh, studied for free, and they used to receive monthly payment in order to uh, be committed to teach in the public schools for the government the same period uh, like they studied. So if she studied 4 years, she's going to work for 4 years for the public schools, or else she has to pay what her costs of study. Haya was one of the promising teachers in this positive way of everything. She had the passion to study. She loved what she did, and she was perfect at her work, and she was perfect. She liked her students, and in everything you look, Haya was a perfect teacher. She was the ideal model or the example that you need to find in every teacher, in every practicing teacher or any new teacher. She is the real teacher or the dream teacher that we wanted to find. Haya graduated, and we all had our eyes on her and what she's going to do in her school and in her classroom. She went to school and she was very creative. We received a lot of positive feedback about her educational methods. But after 2 years, she burned out, if we can say so. Her spirit wasn't the same. She found that the system as a whole does not provide her with the necessary support as a new teacher in the field. All teachers used to tell her, why do you teach? Find another job. Why are you here? You're still young. So, in addition to the classrooms that were not provided well, that were not prepared with the utilities, with the aids, the policies that did not give her room to create, all of these things added for her, that make Haya leave the profession of teaching even before she finishes the obligatory 4 years. This and she had to pay. She paid for 2 years of study cost. She had to pay in order to leave her job and go for another workplace. Haya is a story of a lot of teachers that we have today. A lot of Arabic teachers. I specifically speak about Arabic language teachers. She is also an example of other teachers of other subjects in the field. So it is important, and I will continue speaking in my time today about the complete system in terms of assessment of Arabic language. I cannot have uh, an old curricula that is boring, not interesting, not keeping up with this changing, vulnerable world, or every day we have something new. I cannot have this old or ancient curricula. I have to have a modern curricula. I have to prepare and train teachers. Teacher preparation is very important. What happens in their programs? What are the programs that are being provided for them? Are they still the same old programs that we used to study 10 or 20 or 30 years ago? Do we still prepare the Arabic language teacher with the same framework that we used to do years ago? Do they work on the new directions that they have in terms of preparation of teachers? Do we work on their etiquette? How do teachers work? How do they deal? How do they treat students? How do they speak? How do you use intonation? Do we work on his classic language? Who are those who we choose to be teachers of Arabic language? Are they on the same level like those who go to to engineering, medicine, or technology? Are they on the same level? Are we preparing them to be the best Arabic language teachers that we can have? We need to remember together that the Arabic language is the Arabic of schooling, the Arabic of learning in the Arab world in general, in most of our countries. So, having the teacher of Arabic language, sometimes the weakest episode of the chain, who's not prepared well, not trained well, with not having good training, smart training. Leaders of school tell me usually that I am a management person. I don't know about education. So, and I have seen that a lot in more than one country that I visited. So we do have a complete system, and we need this complete system. For example, spreading the awareness in society in general. What do our families do at their homes? Do they speak classic Arabic with their children? Do they use that well? Do they get their children to like the Arabic language? And I'm speaking about not only Saudi Arabia. I know that Saudi Arabia, the Arabic language is excellent in terms of the Saudi society, but and the social awareness. But generally speaking, in the whole Arab region, we need to have this social awareness. Our social awareness needs to be urged, needs to be uplifted, needs to be worked on in terms of the importance of the Arabic language. Now, the complete system of teaching Arabic language requires a system that depends on standards, and I'm partial to learning that is based on depending on standards, and I will need also KPIs, modern KPIs to the all aspects of the Arabic language. We are not living in a world that only asks us to teach the main four skills. No, we need, this is not enough. We need our students to be able to speak without reading from a paper, from papers, to speak from the heart and to improvise and to speak words, meaningful words and sentences. We need our students to know the arts of the Arabic language. We need our students to sit properly and to speak. We need KPIs. We need a modern curricula that will be interested in not only our current social status, but also to the society that we are living. And what is important is that this curricula will take care of what is going to happen in the society in the coming years. From one month to the other, we have these mega change that happen in our daily life and the lives of our children. We need a program that will be proactive, that will help our students know the future, how the future will be, and how to build our work on what we have in the Arab world, the vision of 2030, the vision of 2025, all the different national visions in our countries. We need resources and new educational methods that will uh, be aligned with all the things that I previously mentioned. We need standards for the Arabic language that I reviewed from one of the Arab countries. They have some standards for the 21st century, and I think they are very modern. And we find that the KPI says a student sits properly. So I didn't understand, how can a student sit properly? How can that be related to the skills of the Arabic language? I didn't find that in the standards of mathematics, for example. Why should we mention that in the standards of the Arabic language? How can I measure or assess that? And if we have a standard or a KPI in the Arabic language standards for listening etiquette, for example, listening etiquette, that the student should not speak before the others end their speech. But we forget that in the Arab world, the way we speak, sometimes we don't wait for the others to finish. And this is a part of our culture and a part of our energy that we have, the beautiful energy of our culture. We don't sit and wait in our society. We have our culture of conversation, and we attack together when we speak, all of us, and everybody's listening and everybody's talking. So how can I do with such KPI in the Arabic language? Or for example, if I find that in the eighth grade, that one of the students said that a student should copy uh, a paragraph with ruqa or naskh calligraphy. So this is beautiful, but how can we use it as a standard? In the eighth, how can I measure that? And pause and Pisa, how can I speak about that in terms of Arab language skills? Now, in terms of the drivers of education, we all know the results of our students in the fields of education and the Arabic language. Usually they are for reading and different PISA and PEARS that started in 2000 or 2001. Those results continue to be doubted by many with claims, and we have many messages until now. Now we are in 2020, and those results continue to be doubted by some. I think that some countries have improved, but most of the countries are under the international standard in terms of reading comprehension. What are the reasons for that? What happened? And I know that many people, there are many dialogues and many conversations that I had with ministries and officials and teachers. A lot of them doubt these results. A lot of them doubt the context and the context of these uh, uh, tests, saying that they are for other countries and they are imposed on us and they are not suitable for our countries. But we have to look at the directions, and by directions I mean the uh, right or left. Today, the world is going to the direction of less content, but deep, deeper content. So it is not, and I usually speak about the idea of grammatical standards or concepts. We don't need all of these concepts. We need the best or the most important of them, those who are very important to us and those who are repetitive in our writing skills. We need KPIs that are less but deeper. The whole world is going into in that direction now, with a huge deepening of skills. Now the world is working on the academic vocabs. How, what are we working now in terms of the Arabic programs? Do we look deeper at what the students have in terms of the academic vocabs? Do we know what are the academic vocabs or the normal vocabs or the everyday vocabs that we need to teach students in the first, second, third to the 12th grades? Do we know that? Do we work on that? What are our choices for educational drivers? What are the political decisions that we have, and how can we, if there is a political decision and a political will that is important in order to improve education and to improve learning and education drivers that are important and valid, can the middle management take that political decision? How, if this political decision is taken, can the middle management uh, take care of the implementation with those who are going to implement these political will or political decisions in the quality of education? I usually, in the Arabic language field, and this is what I work on, I usually feel that there is an episode, the middle episode, that is missing between the political decision and the implementation or the reports and the standards or the phrasing, the formal phrasing or the official phrasing of education, and that management, middle management in the system of education that needs to take that and implement it in the schools. Now, if you remember in the beginning, I talked about that we need to ask the difficult questions, philosophical questions, maybe questions that may be sometimes practical and bold. There is a question about the curricula of the Arabic language. Is the Arabic language curricula charged with teaching Arabic language, reading, writing strategies, or higher order skills? Or is it in charge of instilling identity, religious beliefs, or moral imperative in students? Or is it all of the above? Is the Arabic teacher today the gatekeeper to all of these critical issues? Do we find the same thing in social studies, math, science, music, or other subjects that are being taught or that we have in our different schools? What are we going to assess? Are we speaking about duality or degloss that we have in the classic Arabic and the slangs? Do they have a place in the making of our linguistic policies and language policies in different ministers? There are big and difficult questions, daring questions that we need to ask. And I need to go back to the teacher of Arabic language, the teacher of Arabic language that we sometimes assume that, mistakenly assume that he is or she is the gatekeeper to religion, identity, and ethics, and reading and writing and strategies. Can those teachers be trained based on these assumptions? Are we sure that they are in line when we close this door, that he takes care of all of these assumptions? Are our programs or the assessment of the programs of the Arabic language, are they comprehensive enough? How can I prepare those teachers to be a gatekeeper for all of these issues? So we need alignment between the education, between everything, and we need to think and of the role of the ministries, not only ministers of education, but ministries of finance, labor, education, others who impact education. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a good journey in the quality of education. Thank you, Dr. Hanada Taha, for this fruitful presentation on the Arabic language topic that we face a lot of problems in it in terms of development. Dr. Hanada mentioned that the methodology that is used or the ecosystem that surrounds the teaching of Arabic language still needs development, and this limits our abilities to develop the outcomes of Arabic language in our schools and universities. We will come back to you if time allows, Dr. Hanada, with some questions.